So here's the question. Why does AI get worse the longer you use it? Okay. Has this been happening to you too? Because this is the exact moment that I lose my mind. You open a brand new AI chat, fresh, clean, zero crumbs from whatever disaster you were doing before. And for the first couple of minutes, it's kind of incredible, like annoyingly good. You type something basic, nothing fancy, nothing poetic, just help me clean this up or rewrite this so it doesn't sound like I'm asleep. And it comes back fast and crisp. And you're like, oh, dang, wow, okay, that was pretty useful. That was actually helpful. I see why people don't shut up about this anymore. And you keep going. You're in it now. So you paste another thing. You tweak a line. You ask to change one tiny little part while keeping everything else exactly the same, which, by the way, is a completely normal human request. And for a hot second, you're thinking, this is it. This is the future. I'm never opening a blank document again. This thing is basically reading my mind. It's matching your tone just enough that you get that creepy little feeling of, wait, are you copying me or do you actually get me? Because those are two very different things. And then, this is the part, nothing explodes. There's no obvious failure. There's no red flag. You just read the next response and your face does that thing. You know the face, the tiny squint, the lean back, the reread. And you don't say, this is wrong. You say, which is worse. Because, is the sound of something starting to go sideways without your permission. So you do what any sane person does. You assume it's you, obviously. You think, okay, I need to be clear. Let me explain it a little bit better. Let me add detail. Let me specify. Let me say, no, not that part, this part. Keep everything else. Same vibe, same structure, just not that. You're calm, you're reasonable, you are communicating like an adult. And somehow, that's when everything starts falling apart. Because instead of tightening up, it starts getting slippery. You ask for one change, and suddenly 3 other things are different. You tell it not to bring something back, and it brings it back wearing a fake mustache like you're not going to notice. You say, same tone, and now it's suddenly corporate. You say shorter, and it gives you a longer answer with fewer commas, like that even counts. And you're staring at the screen thinking, no, we were literally just doing this correctly 30 seconds ago. What the hell happened? This is the exact moment I start getting annoyed. Not dramatic annoyed, not throw the laptop annoyed, but that low-grade simmering irritation where you realize you are no longer moving forward with this thing. You're managing. You're correcting. You're doing that thing where you're typing longer and longer instructions to fix a tool that was supposed to reduce the amount of typing you were doing in the first place, which is its own special kind of hell. And the thing that really gets me is how confident this damn thing still sounds. Because it is not apologizing in a way that feels real. It's not hesitating. It's not slowing down. It's just cheerfully wrong. Like calmly adjacent, politely missing the point, and somehow makes it worse because now you feel like you're arguing with a customer service bot that keeps thanking you for your patience while actively testing it. Now, this is usually where I do the same dumb loop every time. I try again. I rephrase. I get more specific. I add examples. I say, no, imagine this like you're talking to a person, not a robot. I mean, ironic, I know. And it nods along and then gives me something that sounds fine until you read it. And then you read it again and again. And now you're editing. Now you're cutting. Now you're fixing things you didn't ask to have changed. And now you're definitely not saving time. This is also the moment where I start opening new tabs because my brain is like, okay, maybe it's just a little bit tired. Maybe I overloaded it. Maybe if I start a new chat, it'll behave again, which is such a wild thought when you say it out loud. It's like I'm negotiating with a toaster or some shit. I'm like, no. You're doing great. Let's just reset. Let's pretend this didn't happen. And yet every single time the new chat is great again for 5 minutes. And that's the part that makes me nuts. The consistency of the inconsistency. The fact that the beginning is always smooth and the middle is always where it gets crazy weird. The fact that the more you try to be precise, the more it starts acting like you're asking for too much. The fact that the tool designed to help you think somehow gets worse the longer you think with it. Tell me you haven't closed a tab mid-sentence because you realized you are now arguing with a machine about something it confidently, and I mean confidently, misunderstood. Tell me you haven't stared at a response thinking, it kind of sounds right, but is absolutely not what I meant. And I don't even know how to explain why without sounding like an insane person. Tell me you haven't had that moment when you realize you've typed more instructions than the original thing you were trying to fix. Because that is a pattern that I keep running into. It starts off charming, and then it gets kind of slippery, and then suddenly you're the one doing all the work again. And every time it happens, I have the same thought. Why does this keep happening? And why does it make me irrationally angry? Like this is a personal betrayal instead of a piece of software. And that's where we're starting. Now here is the second thing you notice. And this one is honestly insulting. The harder you try, the worse it gets. I am not joking. The more detail you give AI, the worse the answers become. I said it. I really did. Which makes no sense because detail is how adults talk. So naturally, when it gives you something a little off, you think, okay, I'll just explain it a little better. So you add context, you add a sentence, then you add another one. And then you're like, no, not that, this. This is very reasonable behavior. And that's when it starts falling apart. Not loudly, quietly. It still sounds good. And that's the problem. It's smooth. It's confident. It's formatted like it's done this before. But now it's saying things that don't exist in real life. And you feel immediately something ain't right. That pause where you're like, I don't know enough to prove this is wrong, but I definitely know this is wrong. That's where you get into the danger zone. Because now you're not annoyed. You're destabilized. You start questioning yourself. And this always shows up in the same way. It's a pattern. You start adding qualifiers. You say, no, not in this case, or except when, or, but the tone should be more this. It needs to feel like, from your side, you're narrowing, being precise. You're doing the thing people tell you to do. And from its side, you just threw 10 new balls into the air because it doesn't know which detail matters. It doesn't know which sentence changes everything. It doesn't know which sentence is just flavor. So it does what it always does. It blends. It averages. And it smooths everything out until nothing means anything anymore. It starts stapling ideas together that absolutely should not be stapled together. And instead of stopping, instead of saying, I'm not sure, it just keeps going. And this is where it starts getting creepy because now it's not retrieving information, it's making shit up. Politely, confidently, with bullet points. And the worst part, it doesn't even know it's doing that. There's no internal alarm. It doesn't feel when something doesn't belong. It doesn't feel weight. It doesn't feel emphasis. Everything is just input. And when you add more details, you are not helping it. You're overwhelming it, which is exactly why longer sessions go bad faster. Every sentence compounds. Every clarification branches. Every weight actually pushes it further away from what you're trying to do until eventually you stop trusting it completely. And that's the moment that I always clock when I open another tab. Not because I want more information, because I don't trust what I'm reading. Even though it looks finished, even though it sounds confident, that's the tell. So here's the pattern with no fluff. Detail does not refine ChatGPT. Detail breaks it, not emotionally, structurally. Once it crosses from pulling from reality into inventing coherence, there's no clean way back inside. You're not going to get back to the same session. And that's why people don't say it messed up. They say it gets worse. Not all at once, just steadily. Like you missed the exit and now you're too far down the road to pretend it's okay. Now here's the third thing. And this one is the quietest, which is why it's the most dangerous. ChatGPT has no lived reality. None. It does not know what anything feels like. It knows words. It knows patterns. It knows how sentences usually go together. What it does not know is whether something actually makes sense in real life. And that becomes painfully obvious the longer that you stay in the conversation. Because early on, it's pulling from stuff that already exists. Facts, common phrasing, data, widely repeated ideas. That's the good part. But once you move past that, once you start asking about judgment calls, tone, meaning, human reactions, there is nothing grounding it. There's no internal weight. There's no friction. There's no sense of what does and doesn't sound right. So it just keeps going. And you see this everywhere. You ask it about feelings, it gives you feelings. You ask it about motivation, it gives you motivation. You ask it about human behavior, it gives you a very convincing performance of human behavior. But if you actually lived any of it, you're like, wait a minute. No, that is not how that works. It's not malicious and it's not lying. It just has no way to check itself against the real world, which is why it gets weirdly confident about things that are obviously really off. You'll notice it especially when it starts telling you how people would feel or how something would land or how a situation would be perceived. And you're sitting there like, by who? A podcast from like 2016? Because it is not pulling from lived experience. It's pulling from language that sounds like experience. And here's where this ties back to why it gets worse over time. Early in a session, the stuff you're asking about is usually close to the source material, facts, definitions, and known frameworks. As the sessions go on, you drift into things that require judgment, things that require taste, maybe a little context, human responses, nuance, huge. And that's where it has absolutely nothing to stand on. So it fills the gap with confidence, which is why the answers don't just get wrong, they get convincing and wrong. That's the part that makes people uneasy because now it's not just unhelpful, It's shaping how you think about something. And if you don't already have strong instincts in that area, you'll believe it. That's not a moral statement. That's just reality. AI has no internal signal for this doesn't match real life. So when you stay in the session too long, you start watching it drift further and further away from anything grounded in reality. Until you hit that moment where it tells you something and you just laugh. Not because it's funny, because it's absurd. Like, okay, you have officially lost the plot in your mind. And then, the funny part, it tries to recover. It tries to recover by being extra polite. It apologizes, it reassures you, it offers a reframing, which is hilarious because none of that fixes the actual problem. Because the problem isn't tone, the problem is that there is no reality underneath all of these words. So here's the pattern. ChatGPT doesn't degrade because it's tired. It degrades because it has no real-world feedback loop. It has no gut check, no embarrassment, no that didn't land. Humans course correct constantly because reality pushes back. But ChatGPT doesn't get pushed back by reality, only by more text. And the longer that the session goes, the further away from reality it drifts. Which is why people describe the experience the same way every single time. It starts great, and then it gets weird. And then I just don't trust it. Not at all. And by the way, I want to throw it out the window. Not because you changed, because you passed the point where reality was still anchoring the conversation. And once that anchor is gone, like you're just floating, baby. And that's the answer to that question. The next one might come from the comments.